All right, guys, another week, 7 weeks into college football. Jeez, that doesn't seem real. And it's a little bit of a mixed bag this week. We got two people who are real happy with the outcome of the weekend, one person who's real sad about the outcome of the weekend. So we got a lot of different emotions here, but we're going to talk about it all. Before we get into it, as always, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from Preston. I need to hear from Nino. Tell the people where they can find all of your great content. Nino, I'll start with you and then go to Preston.
What's up, folks? Nick Battle, aka Nino's Corner, man. Just go to Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just search Nino's Corner or actually Nino's Corner Sports. And yeah, you'll find me, folks. I got all my podcasts, all the videos, everything. And it's Texas football content. Texas football content. By the way, hook them.
Preston, where can people find you?
Yeah, so y'all can find me on YouTube, The PG Show, or Google, Apple, or Spotify, The PG Show as well. All one word. You guys can find me on Twitter, The PG Show _. So I'm joining y'all from traffic, repping Oklahoma, actually going to a place called Boomer Kia. So Boomer Sooner.
Jeez, everything over there, huh? Well, look, hey, and deservedly so. Y'all got a big win this weekend, and we're going to talk about that. I understand Jalen Daniels wasn't there, but Bean is a guy that has college football experience. He played Oklahoma close last year, and he played TCU fairly well. Sad that Daniels couldn't be there, but guys, we got to start with my heartbreak. Alabama this weekend absolutely got it taken to them. Now, look. Bryce Young, in my opinion, now we talked about this a bit before, but in my opinion, Bryce Young proved that man might just be the best quarterback in college football. What he does on a week-in, week-out basis is incredible. I'm not saying that he's, the only exceptional quarterback in college football. We are blessed right now to have several. I'm just saying what he does, he's as good as any of them. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter how good he was. That Alabama defense got it taken to them. Guys, here's some interesting figures. Most points Alabama's given up in a loss in forever. Most penalties under a Nick Saban team. Alabama is now the worst team in all of college football in penalties. Earlier this morning, I made a video. They were 128th, and that was before everything reset. Now they're 131st, on pace for over 140 penalties on the year. Whenever you guys, as outside opinions, because I want to hear from y'all before I give my whole big spiel on this. Nino, I want to start with you. As an outsider looking in, what did you think watching this game, right? Because it was almost surreal.
Yeah, man. So, just to kind of preface everything, my wife's from Alabama. 2 sister-in-laws graduated from Alabama. 2 nieces that actually graduated from there as well. My wife's a big Roll Tide fan, so I have to, sit and watch every Alabama game, every year. So
I knew I liked
you. But man, I was in shock, but I wasn't shocked. Bama has beaten Tennessee the last 16 times, right?
Yeah, since 2006.
Yeah, and so it's like, it was time for Tennessee to get a win, but I was just shocked at the defensive side of the ball. I was just shocked that, Bama has all that talent back there, but to allow all those points, all those yards, and it seems like they were running damn near the same passing play pretty much all game, and they were just getting beat by the same play. And I think once I actually watched the game again, it's like Bama was going straight up man, and it's like, I don't need no help, nothing, just go man and just make it happen, right? And they were getting torched all night long. So I was surprised by the defensive side of the ball. One thing that, I can say, man, Bryce Young is that guy, man. Like, he is that guy. If Bama didn't have Bryce Young, I think Bama's probably 3-4 now, maybe 4-3 right now. He's, if not the best quarterback in ball right now, probably the second best, maybe behind CJ Stroud, but that's iffy, But Bryce is that guy, and he's doing this all with having not the best OC play right now, so B.O.B., I don't think he's that guy at Bama, and Bryce is doing that in spite of B.O.B. calling plays, man. So he's a transcendent quarterback, and he's basically keeping Bama in all these games.
Yeah. Thank God we have Bryce and Jahmyr Gibbs emerging. Their offensive ability is unbelievable. We got some guys on defense, but it's just the entirety of it. Preston, what were you thinking watching this?
So I was actually at a wedding on Saturday.
That's blasphemous.
Funny thing is, we're taking pictures at downtown Oklahoma City. And mind you, the girls and the guys are watching the OSU TCU game. The guys are all watching the Alabama-Tennessee game as well. And I mean, mind you, within like 10 minutes, we're just screaming and going crazy downtown while the bride and the groom are trying to take pictures because, I mean, what a week of college football. And I keep saying that every single week, but it feels like this season has just lived up to the hype that we so needed. And I agree. Bill O'Brien's got to go. And Nick Saban's got to find the answer, which I feel like he hasn't had since Steve Sarkisian left. And I felt like Steve Sarkisian might have been the best offensive coordinator that he's had at Alabama. So I don't know if the answer is going to be Scott Frost in the offseason, or maybe Alabama just has to go drop a bag and take somebody's offensive coordinator. Please stay away from Oklahoma. But something's got to happen at the offensive coordinator position because, like you said, Nino, they're wasting Bryce Young's potential and talent here. And I don't, what is Bryce Young, a junior this year?
Yeah, he's a junior.
Yeah,
there's no reason.
He's going to go to the draft.
First rounder.
Yeah. Because if you're an NFL scout and you're watching Bryce Young right now, you see it and go, that man is calling the plays. He's working the offense. He can come in and step in day one and make a difference. And there's lots of teams out there that are going to need a quarterback. One being the Pittsburgh Steelers, who is my fiance's dad's team, and they just look awful at the quarterback position. So it's going to be interesting to see the direction that Alabama goes with the offensive coordinator this offseason. I'll be curious to see who can win that job. And then also kind of just who's going to win the quarterback job next year. But yeah, the game on Saturday was just fantastic. Watching the Tennessee fans pretty much do the same thing that Texas A&M fans did last year, where they were like holding their breath at the very end. You have to win it at a field goal. It was just, it couldn't have been a more perfect ending to that game. If you're Alabama, I think I would rather lose to a game-winning field goal than lose by a touchdown or two, because that means the team that beat you could barely just beat you. And the past 2 years, it's happened to him twice now. And it just makes for great football content. And watching the Tennessee fans go crazy after the game, taking the goalpost to the river and dumping them there, it was just awesome.
They just paid their goalpost off. They just paid the goalpost off like a game.
Yeah, they're officially my favorite fans ever. So
yeah, that was funny. Now, before I go, I do want to hit some of these comments. Kirby says some of the blame has to rest at Saban's feet. He let his DC not make any changes after they went to dropping 8 and let this. So we made some changes, Kirby, but I do agree with you. And in no way, shape, or form am I meaning to sound like Saban is absolved from blame, because we got simply out-coached at every single level. And I think even the coaches would admit as much. And certainly whenever you have that many penalties, your head coach is not absolved from blame. So I absolutely agree with you there. Another one, Weston says it's not on the D coordinator. That's Nick Saban's defense. Yes, but he's not the one calling the defensive plays. So at some level, you're right, Weston, but at the same time, it's very akin to Ted Roof right now at Oklahoma, right? Like, that's Brent Venables' defense, but is the person calling the plays doing it in a manner that's conducive to success? I don't know. And I'm not sitting here saying that Nick Saban's defense doesn't need some changes. Maybe it does. Maybe college football is always evolving. You always have to be evolving. So maybe that's certainly part of it. But it is what it is. Kirby says Bryce is... Yeah, you're right, Kirby. No doubt. Here's my biggest takeaway, guys. Whenever I look at this, it's so unfortunate because offensively, this is an offense that didn't have any sort of semblance of continuity, any togetherness, but now they're finally starting to get it together, but they can't get out of their own way. And I don't mean offensively they can't get out of their own way. I mean as a team, they can't get out of their own way. Like I said, this is the team that's the most penalized team in all of college football. And we can point to Tennessee and say like, oh, well, there were terrible calls in that game. Sure. Anytime you have an officiating crew, forget what down it is, and you have to go to commercial break so that they can figure out what down it is, that's probably an indication that officiating is not going great. But at the end of the day, it's not a one-off. The penalty problem at Alabama hasn't been relegated to one game. We had 15 penalties against Texas. Mm-hmm. We had excessive penalties against A&M and gave them ample opportunities. The craziest thing about this to me is in a roundabout way, it proves two things. One, both how flawed Alabama currently is, and two, how exceptionally talented Alabama is. The fact that you can have 17 penalties, do everything in your power to keep giving the other team opportunities like the punt, where everybody is getting away and we have a linebacker go try and pick it up. And he fumbles it and Tennessee gets it in perfect field position. All of that happens and you still lose in the waning moments. That to me proves that this team has the ability to beat everybody, but are they going to be able to? And the answer is until they can get out of their own way, no. You're not going to be able to. They have the ability to go toe-to-toe with anybody. But, guys, football, there are too many good football teams. Yeah. You can't have that many penalty problems and expect to win a national championship, even if you're that good. Is that fair or unfair? When you hear me say that, Nino, I want to start with you. Is that fair or unfair?
Very fair, man. I mean, just think about what we're saying here. You know, like Bama fans are jumping off a cliff. Like my wife told me this morning, I don't know how we're going to get to the college football playoffs again. I'm like, oh, spoiled kid problems, right? Look, as bad as Alabama has played this year, they're still 6-1, and they're 3 points away from being 7-0. I mean, that's it. You know, this is like the most undisciplined Alabama team that I think we've seen under Saban, and they are still 3 points away, actually 4 points away from being 7-0. Right. So that just shows you just the level of talent. I also think that college football, the whole landscape is changing. Right. And it has changed with the transfer portal, with all the endorsement money when it comes to straight up NIL. Right. This is a different kind of game. With the transfer portal coming in and kids able to actually transfer out and play, you know, like the next year and not having to wait a year. That's hurting teams like Bama and, you know, Georgia and, you know, like Ohio State, because guess what? Those kids, they can leave and not have to wait anymore. You know, it used to be, look, if I transfer to, let's say from Bama to Arkansas, right, I got to wait 2 years to play. And, you know, I just could have stayed here and just waited my time and played in 2 years. Right. But look, transfer portals changed it. NIL has definitely changed things, and it's evening out the playing field. So all of the talent that Alabama has been used to just stacking on top of each other, they don't have that depth anymore when it comes to that kind of talent, because it's starting to even out the playing field when it comes to the portal and all the deals.
Yeah. PG, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I still think Bama's realistically one of the top 4 teams in the country. You know, I did look at the rankings this morning, and I looked at where I would rank people, and, you know, I'm going to go with the logic. If you're undefeated, it's going to be above everybody that's one loss at this point in the season. But then I look at everybody that's not undefeated, and I'm like, Bama's literally right there.
Yeah.
They're one of the top 8 teams at that point, because they're going to beat everybody else below them. And realistically, they could probably beat everybody above them. It's just a matter of what Alabama team are we going to get week to week. And I know we've talked about the penalties, but when I was watching the Bama game on Saturday, well, the parts that I could watch, it seemed like the offensive line was not protecting Bryce like they could in years past, because it seemed like every time I turned around, Bryce Young was getting knocked to the ground. And it seemed like you wouldn't want that to happen after your quarterback just came back from an injury. So this definitely, I agree, it's one of the most undisciplined Alabama teams we've seen in years. I also think it's probably one of the worst offensive lines we've seen from Alabama in the past couple of years.
It's not as bad as last year's. It's actually improving. Last year's was
brutal.
Tough.
Brutal.
I mean, tough. And PG, I'm certainly not diminishing your point. It's a unit that's growing, but they are getting better than they were last year. And I'll take where they currently are right now over what we saw, because, man, last year it was almost sad sometimes watching Bryce. They'd say Hut, he'd get the ball and he'd get cracked. I mean, yep, thank you, Brock. 41 sacks last year. Yeah. It was tough to watch. Poor Bryce. Now, here's the interesting thing, because y'all there are so many new dynamics in college football, and it's been kind of interesting to watch Alabama navigate the waters, because it almost hasn't affected them as rapidly as I think a lot of people expected, because yes, Alabama has lost talent, but the guys they've been able to get in the transfer portal, right? Like, they've also been able to get great talent. That's been surprising to me. They've been very lucky thus far that the guys they've lost have come at positions where either they had a lot of depth or the situation just wasn't working, right? Like when I think about the guys that would be contributing to this roster, there were outside situations that just weren't working, and a change of scenery was best for all parties involved. That's going to happen, right? But yeah, the changing landscapes in college football is super interesting to me, and it's something we've got to watch because, as Dave points out right here, you're going to have these complete flips. Now, one thing I will say is Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and even Oklahoma, they've been getting top 10 recruiting classes, right? So, like, while all those teams are going to see a shift and they will equalize, it's going to be really interesting to watch the teams that ranked like 20 to 30 and 35 in recruiting, the teams that were just outside that top 10, how they navigate the transfer portal. That's going to be a really interesting case study. And I think a great team to look at was like a Michigan State with Mel Tucker, right? And it didn't last, but what he did in that first year was really intriguing through the transfer portal. Now, do you think that the rules put on the transfer portal, that's only going to add more positivity to it, right? Because now you're adding an actual structured layout to it. I think that's a profound positive.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there needs to be some
positive
rules in place, kind of like we have with free agency in major sports. There's got to be some, like, you can't just have people transferring in the middle of the season. I don't think that works. But to the point you were talking about earlier, I don't think the transfer portal is going to hurt Alabama as much as it's going to help them, because I feel like Nick Saban and that staff is very good at talking players into staying, because they have so much proof that all they need is 1 year with you to spit you out and turn you to the NFL.
It's certainly,
and if you have the talent there, they can do it. And so I definitely think the transfer portal, I think, is going to help Alabama more than it's going to hurt them. Of course, you're going to lose a guy like Drew Sanders every once in a while. But, I mean, look, you got a Jaya Hall out of there. He wasn't the best, I feel like, for that locker room. But you got a guy like Jermaine Burton in there who really, if he can turn it around, that's a superstar receiver for you. So, like I said, I think Bama's going to benefit more from the portal than they will hurt from the portal.
Well, Ajayi Hall is one of those where I'd put him under the grouping of, if in a perfect world, he would still be a part of Alabama. He would be playing right now and he'd be balling right now. In a perfect world, that's not what happened, but he is one of the guys, PG, where I do think for every party involved, it's better that he did transfer. And I'm really excited to see him turn it around, right?
Yeah,
I hope he's able to. He needed to get out, though. And that's what I'm just going to leave it at there. But hopefully that works out for him. But the Drew Sanders one is a great example, right, of Bama losing because for so many guys Alabama has lost, you look at where they go, and it's not like they're the number one guy on that team, right? Which almost feeds into the argument of, well, did Bama really lose that big of an impact player? But then Drew Sanders goes. And yeah, you might have Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, Will Anderson, but that doesn't diminish how solid of a player Drew Sanders is, right?
Beast, yeah.
Yeah, absolute beast. But I want to talk about some other games, guys, because this is saddening to me. And Kirby, to be fair, you're 100% right. Not often at all. I think that's a symptom of two things. Two things, Kirby, and I want to hear from you on this. I'm actually very interested in hearing from not only you, but from other people on this, so hop in the comments. One, terrible O-line coaching from Doug Marrone. I don't think that that's much of a point of contention from anybody who watched Doug Marrone in college. It just didn't work out. It is what it is. Two, I wonder how much COVID affected not only us, but everybody's ability to successfully grade and watch these prospects, because the way you had to evaluate completely shifted. And I'm wondering if that wasn't a major part of why an Alabama right now could be taking a little bit of a hit, because we had misses during that time period where we just weren't able to evaluate in the same manner. Now, that's not just relegated to Alabama. I'm not saying that as an excuse. Everybody went through the same things, but I'd be interested in doing a larger case study, right? Checking the recruiting classes that year to see if teams were more successful, less successful, what that looked like. But Nino, I got to hear from you, man. You and I were talking last Monday about Texas, Iowa State, and we both said we thought it was a game a lot of the college football faithful were going to overlook. Texas playing the way they've played, especially with Quinn Ewers, let's be honest, they've had a spark with Quinn Ewers in there. And Iowa State not having much of an offense. I mean, everything pointed to Texas just killing them in this game. But you and I sat here last Monday and pulled our Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend.
Close,
this
man.
is a great defense. This is an extremely well-coached team. And their offense looked as good as they've looked all season against y'all. It happens against Alabama all the time, by the way. There's no offense. We have a great – and all of a sudden – but talk to me about this win, because to me, this win is symbolic. This win is more than just beating unranked Iowa State. This win is beating top 15 defense Iowa State, looking good, doing it, going into the teeth of their defense running, and getting a win that historically Texas would have lost.
Yeah, man, exactly. So last year, Texas loses this game. I don't even think it's a question. Last year, they absolutely lose this game. And I think Coach Sark even said that. Iowa State is the top defense in the Big 12. Texas ran straight at them in the second half, I think to the tune, of 191 yards for the game. But Texas was honestly, that game should have been won by about 3 touchdowns. Texas had a lot of missed opportunities. They blocked the punt. Overshawn is going in to actually run it. Anthony Cooks bumps into him because he wants the ball too. That's a touchdown off the board, right? Quinn throws a pass to Casey Kane. He's wide open, 65, 70-yard touchdown. He just drops the ball. I mean, just wide open touchdown. There are a lot of missed opportunities for the Texas side of the house, even on the defensive side of the ball as well. It was an ugly win. But like I told people last week, Iowa State is the top defense in the Big 12 for a reason, one of the top 15 defenses in the country, and they're really good at stopping the run. And Texas just lined up with their big boy pants on Saturday and blocked the hell out of some dudes, and Bijan and Roshan ate. They ate good on Saturday. Bijan was that guy on Saturday. Yeah, man, I was excited about the game. I thought Texas was kind of letting it slip away just a little bit, but they came back. Quinn finally got comfortable in the game, so he threw his normal 3 touchdowns that game like he's been doing here, lately. But he only passed like 172 yards or so. But like I said before, folks, he had a drop pass for about 65, 70 yards. That would have definitely put onto that total. So he was right on pace to get another 250, So, yeah, man, very close game. Glad Texas won. It was an ugly win. But when it comes to ugly wins, there are great, great teaching moments. I love to be taught when I still won the game. I don't want to look at all my flaws when I lost the game. So it's a great teaching moment. Say, hey, we played our C- game and actually still won the game. There's a lot of teaching points to this. If you bring that same game up to Stillwater next week, you're going to get blown out. So fix these things. Let's get things ready for next week and let's move on.
Yeah, Pete, what were you thinking?
Well, I want to address this comment here. Iowa State has a quarterback in Hunter Decker.
He's good.
And he's going to be really good. Remember, he's like a true freshman or redshirt freshman? He's going to be really good.
Sophomore,
the Iowa State coaches are really high on him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the Big 12. So I would say they got a quarterback. But Texas, they did impress me a little bit with this win. I agree. This is a game that they would historically have lost in the past, especially coming after an emotional win like they had last week. So that was good. I think the question is, how does Texas respond for the rest of the season, right? Can they win out and go to the Big 12 championship and now win the Big 12 championship, right? That's the question I think that we all have on Texas, because we know Quinn Ewers is that dude, right? Mm-hmm. We know they can go out there and win those games, which is also going to, I feel like, be a problem next year with Arch coming in, because the other question I think that I have for Texas fans and, the administration there themselves is, will the boosters now stay out of it? You have a good thing going. I feel like the culture is changing and turning around at Texas. You can see it on the field. And the question is, will the boosters stay out of whatever's going on back there and let Sarkisian do what he needs to do? Because in my opinion, you should let Arch play next year, or let Arch sit next year and let Quinn continue to play. I think that's your best path to a college football playoff berth. But those boosters could step in and say, we want Arch to start next year. You never know.
No.
It's
hey,
Texas.
Look, hey, man, I got to push back on that. All right. So I think anybody that knows anything about Texas football understands this is Quinn's job next year. Right. This is Quinn's job next year. The Mannings understand that too. That's why Arch is here. He wants to get coached by Sark. He understands he's going to have to sit a year. Quinn is that guy. And honestly, I think Quinn coming back and not going in for his actual senior year of high school has actually helped Manning come in, because guess what? He is a redshirt, guy this year. All right. And so next year he'll be a redshirt sophomore when he's supposed to be a redshirt freshman, actually. And he's going to leave and go to the league hopefully after next year. And it leaves Arch set up perfect to be a redshirt freshman and come here and compete with Murphy here for the job. Don't discredit Murphy. Freaking Malik Murphy's that guy too, right? So we got talent in the room. Bryce Young had to sit his first year too behind Mac Jones. And I think anybody will tell you, Bryce Jones is a much better quarterback than Mac Jones. It just is what it is. But trusting the system, trusting the process. But also when it comes to the boosters as well, look, Texas gets so much flack about the boosters, right? I mean, name me a blue blood program that doesn't have boosters that are always lobbying for something. I think Texas gets the brunt of the stick on that because we haven't been good in the last decade. But it happens everywhere. Like look at A&M. A&M has, come on now. I mean,
while I'll agree with you there, I can't name another blue blood program that had the emails that looked that bad from the boosters straight up pulling strings leak like Texas. So we can say that, but there is actual tangible proof that we don't have elsewhere.
I guarantee you, if you go to any boosters and any blue blood program, you look at their emails.
Yeah, but I think we could both agree. The threat of the unknown versus the threat of the known, you should prepare for what's known rather than what's unknown. And I think the same logic carries on here. So I agree with you. I think that the booster argument is largely overblown, but I also think the inverse of saying like, oh, well, I don't know where this comes from isn't necessarily rooted in reality when we haven't had other boosters have emails that look that incendiary get released where they're straight up trying to call shots and telling players leave if you don't like it. We haven't seen that.
That was what the Austin, Texas situation. That was a bad look. Oh yeah,
that's
definitely.
Right, we haven't seen that elsewhere.
That was a bad look. But who leaked that though? That's the thing. I mean, that's somebody who wanted it to get out there. I'm just saying that shit happens behind closed doors everywhere, especially at any program. Boosters, they bring money to the school, and it just is what it is. I guarantee you, if you open the closet at Texas A&M or at Alabama or at Clemson or at OU, you're going to see some of the same things. It just is what it is.
No, I don't necessarily doubt that, but I also think that there is something to having only one program seeing it, right? I don't think we can diminish that. Like,
I get it.
I also,
get it.
It is what it is. Yeah. But there is one thing that I want to get to some comments because Alabama, I think you may have came in late. He said Bama plays bad, it's close, and Tennessee is great. Bama, we straight up said that if Alabama does not get in their own way, they can beat anybody in the country. They are that good. They're that good. Norwooding said the Iowa State QB looked horrible. Norwooding, he had 11 incompletions. He was 25 of 36 for 330 yards.
Yeah, he was cooking.
He was wheeling and dealing.
He was cooking.
He was wheeling and dealing. Jason says, I don't know if this is true, Nino. They stopped Sark from hiring Mark Stoops.
I'm not sure if that's true or not. I mean, there were rumblings of him wanting to get Mike Stoops, but I don't know if that's true or not. But look, I'm glad we did get Mike Stoops. Here's what it is.
Yeah. That was a good decision. Listen, that might be the only good decisions that the boosters made.
Sometimes, Jason, the boosters make good decisions.
Yeah.
So, no, but I do agree 100% with you, Nina. I just think there's always lies in the middle. Right? I hear people saying boosters are a non-issue, and then people from the outside saying Texas has a booster problem, and I'm like, well, it's certainly not a non-issue because things leaked that are, quite frankly, those people should have no affiliation with your university ever, no matter how much money they have. But at the same time, I don't think we want to go through the texts and stuff of every university.
No,
like
we don't.
would be a vault. So
because college football wouldn't be fun anymore for that.
No, it would not. Dear God, it would make me so sad. But guys, Big 12 had a big weekend this weekend, right? A huge weekend. We have two winners sitting here. We have two winners to one loser. PG, talk to me about Kansas because I do think that's a good win. I get it. Jalen Daniels isn't there, but guys, for anybody saying Jalen Daniels wasn't there, that's not that good of a win. Jalen Daniels being there would have made a difference, sure, but Bean's a good quarterback. Bean played Oklahoma close. Bean played TCU well. 262 yards, 4 touchdowns to 1 interception, if I'm not mistaken. He might not be Daniels, but he's certainly a serviceable college football player. And Oklahoma got a huge win when all momentum had them going down. PG, talk to me, because I know that's got to feel good coming off of the 3-week stretch y'all had.
I'm so relieved to have a win, and I don't feel like I would say that as an OU fan. But, you know, one, and I want to address this before I get into the OU game, or before I get into the OU game. I'm really glad Texas is on the up and up, because I'm really excited to see next year when OU and Texas are both good and we're both going in that Red River rivalry game where we could be talking about a top 5 matchup and then talking about a Big 12 championship where there's a top 5 matchup and talking about, hey, could there be 2 1-loss teams and OU and a Texas going to the playoffs? Like, that conversation is just going to be awesome, and I can't wait for it. As an OU fan, I'm excited. I'm excited for Texas to be back because it just makes the rivalry like worth more at this point. And I know people are like, well, what about OU? Well, OU is going to be fine next year, right? It's the first year of the Venables scheme with as much turnover as they had. 22 new freshmen in there. Only 80% of them are probably, like 80% of them are sitting. The other 20 are playing. Like, you don't have that much depth. I believe next year will be a lot better. But when it comes to this game, and I'm going to have to take it off the air after I say these words, but Oklahoma, like, they showed a lot of fight in this game, in a game where I didn't really expect to see a lot of fight until probably starting next week, because we've heard it. They're tired. They don't have any legs. You hear of, you know, potentially people getting pushed out of the program because they're not guys that are really playing hard anymore. They're starting to slip back into that negative mindset that was there when Lincoln Riley was there. You know, this has been a weird season. So it was a sigh of relief to get a win. I definitely think we saw a lot of good things from the defense. I think they got 7 or 8 stops in that game. The score probably wouldn't reflect that. But, you know, if Dylan Gabriel doesn't turn the ball over 3 times, which, you know, I think all 3 of those were just flukes his first game back, you know, you got a little bit of potential chemistry issues again, right? I think the score does not represent how, you know, close that game really was, right? I think that game was, you know, a little bit farther apart than people think. I don't even think Jalen Daniels really makes that much of a difference, because remember, Jason Bean won the job from Jalen Daniels last year. So I don't think it's that much of a difference. I do think, you know, potentially from it being without those turnovers, a 3 or 4 score game to maybe, again, a 2 or 1 score game, I think you probably end up with about the same outcome with Jalen Daniels if Dylan Gabriel doesn't turn the ball over. But ultimately, I like what we're seeing from the offensive line. They definitely look like they're getting better. That was a huge question at the beginning of the season, even when we were playing those bad teams. All the questions about Eric Gray, I think, are erased. Eric Gray has proven that he's that dude. Javonte Barnes is really stepping up and showing everybody that next year when Gray and Major leave, that Javonte Barnes and Sawchuk are going to be able to step up in that role. And then whoever else is coming in is going to be able to fill those gaps that Javonte Barnes and Sawchuk were filling this year. I feel like the program's going in the right direction. I'm glad that they're getting an off week now. I'm curious to see how they respond going to Iowa State, and then pretty much having a home and away game every 2 weeks, right? You go home and away, home, and you finish away. So I'll be curious to see how they finish the season. Are they going to win out? Are they going to drop one of these games? You know, I don't see Oklahoma State coming into Norman and winning it. But yeah, I mean, it feels like there was a renewed energy with Dylan Gabriel on that sideline. I think Dylan Gabriel might be the most valuable player in the country after watching this past weekend and watching what we saw the past 2 weeks before that. You know, Dylan
in terms
Gabriel
of what
has
he
really
means
shown
to
us
his
that-
team relative to when he's not there. Look, OU, because there are going to be people in the comments that are up in arms about this, but let's be very particular about what we're saying here, right? Most valuable to their team. Oklahoma had 39 passing yards without Dylan Gabriel. It was shocking.
Yeah.
Well, and look at what he did. Against TCU. Like, when he goes out against that TCU game, look at how the offense just stopped.
And
I mean,
someone
you
said,
say that in the TCU game. After the TCU game, they didn't have anything.
Yeah, but they were down 34-10 when he went out. So, I mean, we can say it is what it is, right? They were down 34-10 when he got hurt, and it just got piled on when he got out. So, I'm with you, Ty. I think he's the most valuable player to
He's in
their
the conversation.
team. Yeah, definitely. Because they don't have any depth at the quarterback position.
Yes.
They have none.
Yes.
But I mean, look, I'm not going to excuse that whole TCU game. I'm not going to, forget it was 34-10 when he got hurt. So, it still was pretty lofty for them to even try to come and, actually win that game.
Yeah. And no,
listen, TCU is going to be a problem this year.
They are.
A problem this year.
They are.
Oh,
no, they are.
Guys, so I'll let you go.
See you, man.
But
Yes.
I'll see y'all later at some point. So,
okay. No. So, Matt, I think this is why there's a conflation here, right? We're not saying Gabriel's a top 5 quarterback in the country.
No.
We're saying what he means to his program is alarming.
It's exponentially important.
Yes. Based on what is the result when there, he's going to be in the conversation. Whether you put him, look, I think we can find other players to certainly have the conversation, but Dylan Gabriel has to be mentioned because when he's not there, boy, oh boy. Now, I want to hear from you because we heard from Preston about the Oklahoma win, taking on Kansas, a team with so much excitement. And really, that's why I thought this was a great win for Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. When I look at this, Oklahoma was in a position, man, where they needed positive momentum. And it was at a point where you just needed to play well. And I know people are going to say, but isn't that a moral victory? And I'm not a moral victory guy, but at a certain point, when you have so much new, you kind of have to cling to certain moral victories to try and build off of. What was your thoughts watching Oklahoma take on Kansas?
You know what? It was good for them to actually get the win, but I do want to push back a little bit and say them not having Jalen Daniels did hurt a lot. I mean, just the threat of his legs, is one thing, so not having him in the game, I think that was a big point too. Same thing with, OU not having DG against us as well. So anytime that you lose your starting quarterback who has all the continuity, guess what? Things are going to drop back. It just is what it is. But it was a good win for them. OU needed a win, and their players shined. Eric Gray played amazing. DG did his thing as well. The defense still looked, just a little bit suspect, but that's gonna, hopefully for them get, hopefully cleared up here just in those last 6 games or so. But they needed this win badly.
Yeah, no, and look, even Chicken, an Oklahoma fan, he says if Jalen plays, the Kansas game comes down to who has the ball last.
Exactly.
Maybe so, but look, he didn't. And at the end of the day, you had to go out there, whether he played or not, and play good football because that's where y'all were and that's what you did. Mm-hmm. And look, it was a good win. Now, what happens next? I think this is a great win for Oklahoma because of the time of the season. You go into a bye week right after this, right? What better way to recapture some momentum heading into a bye week instead of a 4-game slide? You recapture that momentum. Now, here, we talked about TCU. I want to hear from you on TCU because they look dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are you thinking about them?
Very dangerous. I think our only saving grace against TCU this year is that we got, GP on the sideline, right? So having Gary Patterson there who knows the personnel, right? But man, Quentin Johnston is a beast. Duggan is playing probably it's the best ball that he's played since he's been in that school, right? So they're going to be dangerous, man. They look really good. They match up very well, against everybody. They actually blocking pretty well this year too. That's a team that I'm kind of scared of this year, so them in Kansas State. I will be at that game, so hopefully, I can bring some luck to the Longhorns. But yeah, man, they're looking good. Very good.
Very good. Very good. Now I want to hit some comments. Ooh, I gotta.
What's this?
I gotta disagree with someone in the comments right here. I got to. Norwooding, look, I'm not saying that the whole because there's some people saying Quinn's the best quarterback in college football. It's way too early to say that, but he's not average, man. No. Or at least his ability is far from average. He has got exceptional ability. He's young. He's gonna make young mistakes. Shadow, I will admit the backward pass, that's a young mistake, but that's just also he recognized it instantly. That was just a baffling mistake. But he's a young quarterback. He's going to grow, but his ability is when you watch him throw on those deep intermediate, because I wouldn't call them deep, but I don't think that they're necessarily intermediate. They're just
it's like those 25-yard passes, like
on
the
the
sweet spot.
outside.
Yeah. I mean, and
It's
he can make
effortless.
dude, he can make every throw on the
Effortless.
field, and Sark trusts him so much. You can tell he opens up the playbook for him. He just does.
Oh, it's
And
Sark. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he understands that he has a quarterback that has the arm talent that can go sideline to sideline, and it's not going to hurt the team. He can throw, actually across his body sometimes and still be pinpoint accurate. So yeah, I'm not going to say, look, I'm looking at some of these comments that, he's Spencer Rattler. No. This guy has all the arm talent. He's a pretty good leader as well. The guys want to play for him. I don't think that was the case with Spencer. But yeah, his arm talent is insane. He is young. And if we're going to nitpick plays, we can go any game and any quarterback in the country and go look at one play that they made that just wasn't good. But go look at the other 69 that he made that game that were awesome, right? So look, it happens. It's football. You're not perfect 24/7. His arm talent's amazing. That's why people are talking about him being a first-round draft pick here after next season.
Yeah, arm talent is unbelievable.
And he doesn't get rattled. He's like a DB, meaning he can get beat on the play, and it's look, the next play, it's like it never happened. He's the same guy, whether he's successful or not successful. He's going to come out there and just have a blank, like mind state here from that point on.
One of the coolest experiences I've ever got is whenever I first got into this, right? Because getting the internship right as COVID happened, I was super lucky to get that. But interning with Dave Campbell's Texas Football, I will never forget. I got to work the state playoff game. And actually, if you look at the highlights, you'll see me in the highlight video for I think it's overtime. I'm in there with the Dave Campbell's hoodie standing on the field videoing. I worked all the state games, but I got to see Cade Klubnik versus Quinn Ewers from field level battle it out. And what a game, man. And you just knew watching those two guys, both of these dudes they're going to the next level. They are just college quarterbacks through and through. Quinn is young, but the one thing I'm not seeing that I would equate him to Spencer Rattler, I don't see him making the risky throws Rattler makes. And the biggest thing I had with Spencer Rattler, because, I think I've talked to you about this, Rattler has all the arm talent you could ever want.
Every bit of it.
What throw do you want? He can make it. He's got the arm ability. He almost wants to prove that he's still like the Spencer Rattler of high school, so he'll throw into triple coverage.
Yeah.
And I always picked out last year. I had a lot of people get after me about this, but last year, the first play of Oklahoma's season, Eric Gray was open in the flat, and Spencer Rattler threw it into triple coverage instead of taking the easy throw to Eric Gray, and it was almost intercepted, or maybe it was intercepted. But I knew right then and there, I was like, oh no. Oh boy, we're trying to prove instead of just taking what's given. Rattler, though, let's not pretend like his ability isn't all world. It's just all about whether or not we can see it.
Yeah.
Apocalypse, you said you don't think Rattler has a great arm?
Oh man, Rattler, come on, man.
I think Rattler has a great arm, Apocalypse. I just don't think that maybe it's always used conducive to success, but the arm talent, I don't think has ever been the question. I think it's breaking down defenses, stuff like that, right? Pre-snap, post-snap. I think that's a bigger problem for Spencer than arm talent.
Exactly.
He says he has a decent arm. Well, yeah, look, he very well might. I've never seen him throw live, if I'm going to be completely honest. But here's what I will say, Norwooding. Rattler has I don't think he's got a bigger arm than Ewers, because I watched Ewers in that pregame warm-up. He can hit every inch of that football field. And this was when he was a junior.
And make it look easy.
This is when he was, man, I'm not joking. Before that pregame, and look, I have no dog in this fight. He goes to Texas, right? I'm a national college football guy, but I wear my bias right behind me so that everybody has it understood. But the dude's got an arm, man. The dude has got an absolute cannon. But Nino, The Big 12 is so much fun this year. I want to
Yeah.
hear more about it because y'all have another huge game this weekend. What are you thinking about this weekend?
Man, so at first I was thinking, hey, it's going to be a very, very close game. And, honestly, I still think it's going to be pretty close, but I don't think it's going to be as close as people are saying. So I just got some news, that I didn't know that Oklahoma State's defense was like the bottom 6 in the country.
It's
You
not
know,
very good. Let me check where the
yeah,
update
it's like
stats say.
bottom 6 in the country for passing defense. And if that's the case, for passing
It's gonna be
defense,
tough.
it's going to be tough for them. I think Quinn's going to eat good,
Yeah.
if that's the case.
Noel's
I think,
leaving hurt.
yeah. I think Worthy's going to have a great game. I think Whittington's going to have a really good game as well. I just think the wide receivers across the board are going to ball out. I think this is going to be a game that I finally think we see Billingsley do his thing. This is his second game back. But JT Sanders is going to ball out as well. I just got a feeling if that defensive secondary is as bad as people are saying it is, and just from the metrics, it's the bottom 6 in the country for passing defense. Texas offense is going to be, basically set up for a good game. On the flip side, Spencer Sanders, he's hit or miss, right? I mean, he's hit or miss. He is the most consistent, inconsistent quarterback in the league. And he's been like that now for 5 years. But when he's on, he's on. But he's always going to make a play every game that's going to give the other team an opportunity to take that game and win it. And it's just, when is that play going to happen? It's going to be early, or is it going to be late? Hopefully not late for Okie State. Hopefully late for us. But, we'll see, man. He can use his legs, which is all, that's a trait that gives Texas defenses problems every year. Is a quarterback who can run. But yeah, he's very inconsistent. But if that defense is the way that it is, I think Texas is going to eat pretty good. And if our defense plays like they've been playing this whole year, minus the Texas Tech game, we haven't had anybody score over 21 points in us minus that Texas Tech game.
Yeah, that's actually super interesting. Well, first off, I got to get Steven on here. I got to get Homer on here because I really want to talk to y'all and do kind of a deeper dive and deeper discussion into the defense, evolution of it. Because if you remember, whenever Alabama and Texas were about to play, you and I were talking, and I asked if PK could be on the hot seat because of the existence
of GP,
of Gary Patterson there. Like, that is a real question, and that defense has improved. I'm not saying it's a work that's done. It's absolutely not. There are still holes in it, but considering where you were to where you are, you have got to be encouraged. I got some numbers for you. You're going to like these.
Go ahead.
Oklahoma State's defense and total defense ranks 110th in the country.
Oh, we eating.
Against the run, which is what they do best, they're 57th in the
we
country.
Eating. Oh, yeah, we're going to eat.
And against the pass, they're 126th out of 131. So that is not where you want to be. What I will say Oklahoma State has, and you touched on it, but I want to touch on it further, that is an X factor here, is Spencer Sanders. And let me explain. He's a veteran quarterback. This guy has played a lot of big football. He's been in these moments. You're on the road, right? He's used to these moments. Quinn is young. Quinn is exceptional. Quinn is still getting used to these moments. Now, am I saying that to say he's going to have a bad game? Certainly not. That's not my contention here. My contention is we have one quarterback who's a seasoned veteran, one quarterback who's still learning. Experience does matter. But to your point, and I've said this frequently, Spencer Sanders is one of the most interesting players in all of college football to me. And I've been on this train for 2 years now because I've seen him make throws, Nino, where my jaw drops. And you're sitting there and you're like, I can count on my hands how many quarterbacks can make that throw in college football. I mean, it is beautiful. And not 5 seconds later, he makes another throw and you're like, I can count on my hands how many quarterbacks would make that throw. What in the world is happening?
Yeah, what's he thinking?
It's the weirdest swings I've seen. But if you are playing good Spencer Sanders, you've got a long day in front of you.
It's going to be an old-fashioned shootout, man. If that's the case.
Fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a shootout. Fun. Yeah.
And look, this is the game, man, where I think we're going to learn a lot about Texas. Win or lose, and of course you want to win, but win or lose, you're learning a lot about this Texas team every week because of the youth, because of where they came from relative to where they are. How pleased are you? Because I know you want to,
Man.
you don't want to go too far and be like,
Yeah, I don't drink the
is
Kool-Aid
back,
too
but, like,
much, but
where
man,
are you in all
man,
of
I
it?
am excited for the future of Texas. If you'd have told me at the start of the season, after 7 games, we're gonna be 5-2, I'd have been like, okay, all right. Now, if you'd have told me 5-2 and we beat Oklahoma, I'm like, okay, where's the loss coming from? So the Texas Tech thing kind of threw me out, right? But 5-2 after 7 games, and honestly, some people don't want to hear this, but I think if Quinn plays the whole season, I think Texas is 7-0 right now. Yeah, that's just my
Certainly
honest
could
opinion.
be.
Yeah, I think for sure we beat Tech. I think it's going to be an old-fashioned shootout with Bama. I can see Quinn versus Bryce going into the fourth quarter. Whoever wins that game wins that game. Yeah, I can definitely
I don't think
see
you lose to Tech. I'll say that with full confidence.
Definitely. So I am extremely satisfied with the progress of this team. The future looks bright. Our offensive line. Look, seeing Kelvin Banks Jr. playing left tackle, he's a grown-ass man playing left tackle
football.
as a true freshman. He didn't even come in the spring, guys. He came here in the summer, and his first camp was fall camp, and he's the starting left tackle and probably the best left tackle in the conference right now. I mean, that's
certainly
how
in
good
the
he is.
conversation.
Yeah.
Certainly in the conversation. Did you see Ian's tweet today?
No, I didn't see it. What did he say?
The Iowa State safety. I every time I pick up my phone and open it back up, because I was doing something, I'd look at Twitter, I'd see the tweet, and I'd start laughing. And I'd put my phone down and get back to editing. I'd get, 5 minutes in, go right back to my phone and instantly laugh again. This safety was going, I don't know whether it was Roshan or Bijan. I think it was Bijan. He's going to hit Bijan, but Banks is the lead blocker, and he made a business decision real quick, and he jet left. He didn't want any of that smoke, and I just died laughing. I was like, yeah, buddy, you and me both.
Man, hey, I'm excited about it, man, because you got Banks, and then also you got Cole Hudson, too. So he's playing the right guard position, and he's looking pretty good also. I mean, they are pass blocking so well right now.
And that's the interesting thing.
It's very interesting.
One thing, if the run blocking was as good as it is now, that would be impressive. But there's a logical explanation for that. Run blocking, and I'm everybody in the chat knows this, so I am apologizing for breaking this down, but run blocking is easier than pass blocking. You get to fire off at somebody, which is much easier than catching somebody.
Exactly.
It's just I have this weird reference in my mind because I grew up on a horse ranch, and I always think about throwing the hay bales, right? It's much easier on my body to throw the hay bale than it is to be the one standing on top of the truck trying to catch the 100-pound hay bales that are being tossed in, right? Totally different ball game. But for Texas, their pass blocking
is light years better than their running, which is crazy because even with young players, you expect their run blocking to be so much better because it is easier, right? It's supposed to be easier. But their pass blocking is like twice as good as their run blocking, which is so weird. And we got a young offensive line, folks. We got a true freshman starting at left tackle. We got a actual redshirt freshman starting at left guard. We got a sophomore starting at center. We got a true freshman starting at right guard and a senior starting at right tackle. So
that'll be Campbell's spot next year, presumably.
Campbell, no, I think that's going to be Cam Williams' spot next year. I think.
Interesting.
Yeah, Cam Williams is the backup, right tackle right now, and that's where Kyle Flood likes him at. So I think he's going to be the guy that's going to be starting there at right tackle, and I think Campbell's going to be fighting it out for one of those guard positions, man, or center, because we've heard through some kind of reports that Kyle Flood has also been working him in at center as well in the summer. Right. So,
interesting.
Kyle Flood just wants to get his best 5 on the field. But also,
I know all about Kyle Flood. I knew when y'all hired him. And for those of you that don't know about Kyle Flood recruited, in my opinion, the greatest offensive line class of all time when he was at Alabama. That included the number 1 tackle in the nation, the number 2 tackle in the nation, the number 2 guard in the nation, and the number 1 center in the nation. He then backed that up the next year with arguably a better offensive line class, or at the very least, just as good of an offensive line class with Texas. And it was insane. And then you look at the results, and it's just like, it's not just recruiting.
Yep. And you know what? And it's not even about the new players. The thing that I'm most excited about is seeing a guy like Christian Jones, who played left tackle last year. And everybody was so down on Christian Jones. And, even he said it before that he didn't really play that well last year. But to see the maturation process of him moving to right tackle, and you're seeing exactly he's one of the highest graded right tackles in the conference right now. And I think one of the top 20 in the nation. So you're seeing a guy who's trusted the process, learned from Cal Flood, and is doing great things at that right tackle position. But not even just the offensive line. If we go and take a look at just how young this team is, we're even seeing some of our backup wide receivers that are true freshmen, like Savion and Red. Yeah, so Thompson and Red, those guys, when they come in, even if the ball's not coming their way, they don't get a lot of targets. What you see them do, their blocking is freaking outstanding, and Coach Marion always says,
great hire.
Yeah, great hire. Tell me how much you love your teammates basically by what you're doing when you don't have the ball. And those guys, look at Savion Red. He's looking for contact. He's driving, safeties and, DBs, man, 5-10 yards off the ball, man, giving great running lanes, man. So he's doing his job. Brendan Thompson is too, even for like a smaller guy, he's blocking his ass off too. So I love where Texas is going on the offensive side of the ball. That line's going to be fortified again next year. It's going to be amazing. The defensive side of the ball, just seeing, I think where Texas is going to have to make strides next year is I think Texas is going to lose a lot of defensive line talent. And that defensive line talent got really developed this year with PK. Colborn's looking like a guy who's going to get drafted either, day 2 probably. Sweat's going to be drafted here too. Ojimo, he's probably going to get drafted as well. We got a lot of guys who are going to be leaving next year, just actually going through the draft. So that's when guys like Alfred Collins and Broughton, they're going to have to step up and do their thing. Byron Murphy is a dog. I mean, he's a dog. I love Byron Murphy. You got guys like, Ovi. I think this is Ovi's last year as well. Baron Sorrell. So getting that defensive line back intact next year after this crop of guys leaves is going to be big for Texas because they've been able to stop the run without bringing a lot of pressure. And that's because of how good that defensive line's been playing this year. So if we can mimic that next year, I think, Texas should be in good hands on the defense side of the ball.
And you got a great recruiting class so far coming in.
Yeah. We got to keep them.
National Signing Day, early National Signing Day. It's 2 months away, but let's be honest, that's right around the corner.
Dude, right around the corner, man.
7 weeks into college football. Now, what's something that's super interesting, not related to Texas, but have you heard about the Army Bowl?
Mm-mm.
So the Army All-American Bowl that used to be in San Antonio. So now it's not there anymore. There's an All-American game still in San Antonio, but the Army is now the Army Bowl in Frisco.
Oh, right there in Dallas. Yeah.
Right here in Dallas. Bruh, the quarterbacks they got coming out there this year, you might have to get a flight out here. They got Arch. They got Nicholas, Iamaleava. They got, the top 5 quarterbacks all are going to be there.
I'm going.
It is dumb. I went to the press release. I actually got an invitation to cover the press release whenever it was first announced that they were going to do this, and they were reading off the talent, and I'm sitting there looking at my fiance like, oh my God, this game is like, it's can't miss. Now, I do want to get to some comments, and then I have one more question for you related to Texas. Brian says Michigan's the best offensive line and 1-2 punch. I'm assuming you mean at running back in the country, and I'm not going to take anything away from Michigan's running backs. They're exceptional. I think there are some teams that could also say they like their running back 1-2 punch, and I don't think they're wrong. I think the man sitting here across from me
I love Bijan and Roshan. I'd take them any day.
Would take Bijan and Roshan, but I think we could also agree we don't necessarily fault you for taking your guys the way they're playing. And, Brian, I do want to say this. I was wrong on Michigan this year. Not that I thought Michigan would be a bad team. I was just overly curious as to who Michigan would be. They were so good last year. They got the big win over Ohio State. Nino, the biggest question I had when it came to Michigan was actually Harbaugh. And let me explain. Not saying, are you a good coach or not? I have the answer to that. Harbaugh can coach football. That's not in contention here, right? Not a conversation. He flirted with the NFL after that big year. And I was wondering, how was the locker room going to perceive that on the big year where you finally break through in one of the most heated rivalries in all of sports? I mean, look, I get it. Alabama fan, Alabama, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee. He gets it. Nino does. Texas, Oklahoma. But Brian, Michigan, Ohio State, it's up there, right? It's as big as any of them. After that, to flirt with the NFL, I thought that, man, this locker room could be shaken, and they are not. They absolutely are not. They're a good team. They're a very good team. What are you thinking about Michigan?
Man, very good team. Last year, once they finally broke through, made the playoffs, I think, Harbaugh flirted with the NFL because I think he saw that as good as he was last year and all the strides that, they made, once he got against an SEC team that's been able to recruit in the top 5 every year, it's just a different level of talent when you can stack up those classes year after year after year. So maybe he's like, God, I had my best season ever and I get blown out, like first game. But that just takes time. That takes time to build that. And granted, he has had time, but, to build those kind of special classes, man, it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. And maybe he's now here for the long haul to actually do that. But the thing about that is, a guy like Harbaugh, the best thing for Michigan was for him to be an alum. And I say that because since he was an alum, they weren't just going to fire him after 4 years. They're going to give him some time to, work, right? If that would have been any other school, they probably would have ran him out after like year 4, and they didn't. So now you're starting to see that it takes time. Everybody's not Nick Saban. Everybody can't come in and in the second year win 10 games and then in the third year win a championship, right? Everybody can't
Nick
do
Saban, that wasn't his first stint, right? He'd been at LSU. He'd been at Michigan State. He'd been a position coach at Ohio State. Like, he has a long history. I bet there's a lot of people in chat who didn't know that one.
Yeah.
Saban's got that. He's got that Ohio experience. There's some funny stories about Saban, man, going and recruiting in Ohio. When he was at Michigan State, I'll tell you this one, and then I'll let it get back to you. When he was at Michigan State, he went out to eat with a bunch of coaches. They all met up at this place to eat breakfast, and he's there with the Ohio State coach. And this is in the book back here. It's super funny. He's telling all these coaches, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to leave from here, and there's a prospect I've got to see. There's a prospect I got to see. I just got to get to him. He's, flying under the radar. All the other coaches are sitting there. They've never heard of this kid. Well, come to find out, they'd never heard of him because the kid didn't exist. And Saban just wanted them all to be late for them to go back to their practice schedule. So he told them that this kid was there. So they all drove out to this high school for someone that didn't exist. Saban went back to
that's GOAT status, man. That's GOAT status.
Just funny stuff like that, man. Funny. Brian, I will agree with you. Thank you for the $2. Chicken, thank you for the $9.30. Thank you all for being in here. Brian says Michigan is better than this year than last.
Exactly.
They might be.
No, yeah, they are. They are. It's not even close. One thing that I will say about Michigan last year, when I did like a deep dive just into like the offensive lines for all 4 teams to make the playoffs. Michigan had one of the most senior offensive lines last year, and you saw it. They had great cohesion. I mean, they were together. Nice running lanes for their backs, man. And I think this year, these are some of these guys. It's like honestly, like their last year, right? So you're going to see them continue to block well, which they have been doing all season. Harbaugh's building something good. It's going to take a couple more years to just stack some more classes, and but once he does that, man, Michigan's going to be here for the long haul, man.
This Ohio State-Michigan game this year is going to be must-see action. Ohio State, they're playing out of their mind right now. If you want to watch some fun offensive football, check out an Ohio State game. Like seriously, I can't watch Ohio State play offense and not just smile. I'm just sitting there. I'm like, this is fun.
Dude,
this is fun.
Yeah, they got the full package, man. They got Stroud over there flinging it. They got the wide receivers just killing it. I mean, they're just stacked, man. It's just fun to watch. It is. Exactly. It's just fun to watch.
Chuck said, but Georgia beat them easy. Yeah, Chuck, Georgia last year was a different animal, man.
15 people drafted, right?
They were exceptional. And they're great this year, but the Georgia last year was exceptional. And it's Chuck, it almost gets to this point. And you're not alone in saying this, and I've talked about this before. Just because Georgia was exceptional doesn't diminish how good Michigan was, right? Yeah. Like, we've seen coaches in the SEC be great coaches, but they're the second best coach. And people are like, oh, well, are you ever going to be able to get over the bridge? And I'm like, well, you're measuring yourself to the wrong standard, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not.
You got to measure against the field there, you know?
Yeah, that's not
not against Saban.
conducive. Yeah, for sure. Now, I want to hear from you on two things, Nick. Two things, because one, Chicken wants to hear your prediction for the Texas-Kansas game.
That's so far away.
I want to know who you think is the biggest threat to Texas in the Big 12 remaining.
That's a good question. I think Texas goes to Stillwater, and I think they take care of business this weekend. I do. I just got a feeling that they're going to take care of business. I think the biggest threat right now, I'm going to say it's going to be Kansas State. Martinez scares me. He can run the ball like crazy. Texas has a big problem with running quarterbacks, and he's a different kind of running quarterback. I mean,
Martinez is going wild this year.
Dude, you see how just fast he is, how shifty he is. I mean, he's just a different animal. That's the one that scares me because it's on the road as well, right? TCU is going to be a good one as well. Kansas, should be a good one. But I just got a feeling the one I'm worried about the most, I think, is Kansas State. And it's just because we're playing at Kansas State up in Manhattan. And if we can get past Oklahoma State, I got a feeling that Texas should handle business this weekend with, that defense being like the way it is. I think Quinn's going to have a good day. It's the next game. I'm really worried about Kansas State. If we can get past them, then I think Texas should be in good position here.
I'm surprised your answer wasn't TCU.
Well, we got TCU at home, and we got their ex-coach from last year there. I think if you had to put money on the table to Sark and say, who'd you bring in GP for? He's probably going to say Alabama, Oklahoma, and TCU.
I mean, look, once you explain it, I'm sitting here and, my answer for you would have been TCU. But once you sit here and explain it, I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, damn, yeah. Adrian Martinez, I mean, he's not really making mistakes this year. He's not Quinn or Bryce carving you up, but he's not making mistakes, and he's leading that offense. Jeez, Louise,
and he can use his legs. He can use them, man.
I don't know if you caught it, but I called him instead of Adrian Martinez, I hit him with a Lamar Martinez because he's out there, man. And that KSU defense, they've got some names on the defensive front, like Zone says, 100%. Frightening says TCU is scarier than KSU to you, but I think those are two games you can't ignore, plus the Oklahoma State game. I mean, the Big 12 has been such a pleasant surprise this year. Well, and it's interesting. I thought it would either go one way or the other. I thought that the chaos would either engulf everybody and everybody would be like crabs in a bucket, or you would have teams be able to do what they do now. Now, to be 100% transparent, I thought it would be more likely that the Big 12 would be a great example of crabs in a bucket this year.
Yeah.
Like everybody just pulling everybody down.
And it still can, though. And it still could. It still could because we're halfway through the season. And, hey, what happens if, let's say, Kansas State loses 2 games or 3 games and TCU loses 3?
It gets fun.
And then, look, you got Texas. We got 2 losses. What if we lose another one? And then let's say, OU goes on the run here, right? And we might have an opportunity where there's 4 or 5 teams with just 3 losses, like 3 or 4 losses. And so, nobody has that perfect record, right? And so, yeah, man, this can get really interesting down here.
But the Big 12 isn't alone. And I'll end it with this next conference. We'll talk very quickly about them. But what other conference I have just had a lot of fun watching? And it's been one of those things where for guys like us, man, you almost have to whisper it. Yeah. Because whenever you say it, people are like, oh, you're watching the Pac-12.
Dude, they're exciting.
But this year, every time it comes around, 9, 10 o'clock here and Pack at Night comes, I'm sitting there at the couch, so excited. The Utah-USC game.
Great game.
Phenomenal. USC catching that loss, but Utah under Kyle Whittingham, traditionally being a team you can never doubt. But you look at the Pac, and people might say USC's done in the Pac. No, they still have UCLA.
Yeah.
Right? And UCLA is really impressive. Washington is an impressive team in the Pac. Whenever you're looking, which conference do you think is the biggest pleasant surprise this year?
I might go with you, say the Pac-12, man.
Because I think the Big 12 is better.
Yeah. So the Big 12 is better all the way around. But, I kind of expected Texas to be decent this year. You know, I said Texas. You know, Texas shooting 40. That was my preseason. You know, OU 4. But expecting
Yeah.
to be better this year. You know, Oklahoma State just game. I thought that they would still be good. Baylor's the one that's kind of, you know, like,
I
come
thought
on,
Baylor
Baylor.
would be a little bit better.
Yeah, you know, so you know, Baylor's the one that's kind of got me, but I thought this conference would still be a pretty strong conference. But like you say, Ty, Pac-12, man, UCLA's undefeated, right? Yeah, they're 6-0, right?
Yeah, they're undefeated.
Yeah, and so you got USC, who only won 4 or 5 games last year. Lincoln comes there, brings his quarterback, and look, they only got 1 loss now. You know, so they're 6-1. Utah is Utah. I mean,
So much fun.
He's just an amazing coach, man. I love Kyle Whittingham. He's just an amazing coach.
You and me both, man.
Yeah,
I've kept talking about him all off season because I
dude,
keep looking
he's
around
amazing.
and
He's
nobody
amazing.
talks about him.
You know, it's because he does coach up there, and he's such a quiet coach. He's not a me kind of coach, and he just always brings a great defense. And he's kind of married that now with just an outstanding offense with Cam Rising doing his thing. And I mean, man, he's just a fun guy to watch. Man, he's just a fun guy with a very fun team to watch. But yeah, man, the Pac-12 is very surprising. They have an opportunity to have 3 teams finish in the top 10 this year, which is pretty shocking. Think about that for a minute.
You know which team, and I think I might have told you. I don't know if I told you or not, but I'm gonna say it now. What team earlier this year I was like following super close, like everything they would do. As soon as I'd get done making content, I'd instantly head to YouTube, watch their games. But Washington with Penix Jr.
Yeah, I haven't had much chance
blast.
to catch up with them this year, but yeah, I watched one game. I think it was like who did they play? It was a late night game, though. It was on to like 1 a.m. You know.
Yeah, do it, man. It's so much fun. Abel says, "Oh, good lord, we got the
oh look, you got the bots.
messages.
You got the bots coming in.
Yeah, careful, guys. The Tinder bots are in here."
That's funny.
Abel says SEC middle tier teams are nice right now too. Look, college football this year is nice right now.
Fun,
so much fun.
Oh, hold on. Hey, so Abel 318. Hey, Abel, don't tell me that you're from Shreveport, man. Look, I'm from Shreveport. I was born and raised in Shreveport.
Oh, he saw that 318 and knew.
Yeah, man. I saw that 318. I'm born and raised in Shreveport, man.
Okay, man, that was quick.
Yeah.
Look at you, expeditious with it.
Yeah, hey, but the SEC is looking good, man. Look, Ole Miss is undefeated right now, right? They're 7-0.
Ole Miss is undefeated. Tennessee is undefeated.
Mississippi State is playing their butts off this year. Mississippi State looks good. Leach looks good.
You want to know something crazy? Hold on. You give me a little bit, because I'm gonna hit you with a stat that's gonna blow your mind.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you with this, but to your point, I think the one conference right now that's been a little bit disappointing, maybe the ACC.
Yeah. Except Clemson.
Clemson's
good. Yeah.
Clemson's actually,
DJ.
Yeah,
DJ looks really good now.
Really good. They've actually impressed me more than I thought they would. Miami, I don't know what's going on there. And Mario Cristobal is probably happier than anybody that Oklahoma is struggling, because the whole nation collectively has talked about Brent Venables, who's a first-time head coach, and they're more surprised by his struggles than by Miami just absolutely having a tough time. What are you thinking about Miami?
Dude, this is Cristobal's first year, right? You know, you got to give him a pass his first year. You know, you got to give him a pass.
No doubt.
It's just, if I'm going to give, like Sark a pass from last year, giving Oklahoma a pass this year as well, you got to give him a pass his first year. He's got to get his culture in, right? That's what we all say. Get his culture in, get him in place. But yeah, I was surprised that it did kind of fall so fast, but look, he's a good coach. He's known for winning, but he's also known for losing the game he shouldn't lose. He does it every year. But I think that's going to be something that's going to change here, hopefully pretty soon, because you got to understand he's going to get the pick of the litter down there, from Dade County, and he's going to do some great things down there in Miami. They got a lot of talent out there.
Yeah, and Miami got their first Power 5 win this week. They've been, and I think what the most interesting thing about Miami to me, I didn't expect them to win the ACC. I thought they'd be more competitive.
Yeah.
but it's the regression of Tyler Van Dyke. That's the
Mhm.
most telling thing for me. And
Mhm.
my question isn't with Cristobal. I completely agree with you. My question is with Gaddis,
Mhm.
right? Because now I'm looking at Michigan's offense, and Michigan's offense this year looks better than they looked last year with Josh Gaddis.
Mhm.
Right. And I don't know if a lot of people remember, there was a lot of contention when he was at Alabama. He left, Mike Locksley left. He tried to say he was the reason for all the offensive success. Mike Locksley said, I'm the reason. Well, Maryland's offense with Tualia looks pretty good
Yep.
most weeks.
Yep.
And Gaddis's offense looks pretty bad most
Mhm.
weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it was Locksley, but right now, if I'm saying, hey,
Yeah.
it is what it is,
It
I'm
is
going
what
to
it is.
leave you with this right here because you brought up Mississippi State, and I've already had you for far too long. Mississippi State has 2,993 yards of total offense on the season. You want to know something dumb?
What's that?
2,313 of those yards come through the air.
Wow.
Like, it's Leach, so we should expect
Yeah, we
that.
should
But
expect it.
just to hear those numbers, it's just like,
Man,
wow.
he's crazy, man. He's just a hell of a coach. He's a guy that doesn't get his just due. I don't think
Yeah.
he ever gets his just due. He's a great coach. He's done it at Texas Tech, and people thought he was crazy when he had the system at Texas Tech, and when he was actually at he was the OC at Oklahoma, right? And so he brought it there as well. Went to Texas Tech, did his thing, and people thought that system just wasn't going to work and it wasn't going to do this. You see more people evolve that whole system. It's in the NFL now, being run by Cliff Kingsbury and being
The
run
route
by
concepts, yeah.
just the route concepts in general. So he's been a trailblazer, man, when it comes to college football and just football in general. So Leach doesn't get the credit that he deserves, man. But I like him as a coach. If he can incorporate just some more running aspects out of that
And
offense, I
defense.
think it's
Goodness
deadly.
mercy me.
Yeah.
Goodness mercy me.
Yeah, just go get a hell of a DC. He actually has a pretty damn, good DC. It's just, can they get the talent over there to play? So all the kids will need to go to Ole Miss, which they've been known for good defense, or Alabama, just the next state over, right? So, it is what it is, man.
Yeah,
He's a great coach. He's a great coach.
Leach is a trailblazer. I don't think there's any other way to put it. But I want to let the people know where they can find all of your content. Now, we weren't able to do the Friday stream this past week, but given who y'all play, if you're available, I'd love to have you on Friday to preview y'all's game against Oklahoma State.
Anytime, man. I got to do some, some stats and my metrics tonight. I think I'm filming tonight too for my own channel, but yeah, man, we'll see. But yeah, man, find me at Nino's Corner on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. Go to ninoscornersports.com. That's my website. I track all Texas metrics. I do everything for Texas metrics, man. So just go there, man. Yeah, it's just good stuff. Yeah.
And guys, whenever I'm doing research for videos, there are certain content creators where those will be some of my first stops, right? Whenever I go do Texas content, Nino, Homer, Steven, those are some of my first stops. I'm going to hit their channel. If I'm interested in an idea about Texas football, I'm going to try and see if I can extrapolate some information from what they do. And I, to this day, continue to reference the offensive line video you did for Texas, because I think that every college football fan should see that, because it's a great way to predict success for your own program or programs in your conference. And it was eye-opening. Thank you so much for being here this evening, man. I can't wait to get you back on Friday to talk about that Oklahoma State game.
Anytime.
Well,
Friday should be good. Saturday, I got a game with my son. He's playing ball now. He had 5 touchdowns last Sunday. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So little Nino's doing good.
Hey, send him to Nick Saban. Send him to Nick Saban. We could use him.
Yeah,
but all right, y'all.
All right, man.
Take it easy, y'all. Have a good one. Enjoy your Monday Night Football.